no CISO has a 100% handle over how AI is being utilized in the company. That's what keeps me up at night. There was a time when shadow IT was a real problem. In pretty much no one talks about shadow IT anymore. Everybody wants to try out co-work and see if it can make their life easier. As somebody who has to wear multiple hats within a public company, I have to be the guy who has to stand up and say, no, we can't do this. We have to be compliant, be very careful with the data that we store.
And where does all of that leave us for the evolution of the CISO role?
The evolution would be something that I see in my current role already, which is data trust and security coming together. A clean, high quality, secure data foundation that we know when we feed it to LLMs and agents will do the right thing.
Hey everyone, and thanks for listening to another episode of The Future of Data Security. Today I'm speaking with Vivek Menon. He's the CISO and head of enterprise data at Digital Turbine. Vivek, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Likewise, Jean, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
And I like your background. It's very innovative.
Yeah, I'm a classic rock fan, so when I see Jimi Hendrix, that's my background.
That's a first on the podcast. So I was looking at your background. You've really served in multiple capacities, multiple cybersecurity leadership roles. I saw JP Morgan, Capital One. You're also on the ForgePoint Capital Advisory Council with the legendary Alberto Yepes. And now you're CISO and head of enterprise data at Digital Turbine. Looking across this journey, right, all these experiences, what would you say is your core expertise and focus today?
Yeah, so for me to answer that question, I would quickly say that we can split my career almost half and half, where I focused on data in the first half of the career. That became my segue into security in the second part of my career. So the intersection of data plus security is where my core expertise lies. And now in the AI age, when it's all about data readiness and what data you want to expose for your AI agents or LLMs being all the rage, I think life has come a full circle. I started from managing databases to now managing lake houses and do it at a scale and complexity that even agents can understand.
Very interesting. And what would you say when you wake up in the morning? What gets you out of bed in the morning at this stage of your career?
I would say in the last year or so, shadow AI. There was a time when shadow IT was a real problem. In pretty much no one talks about shadow IT anymore because shadow AI has lapped it. And no matter what people say publicly, no CISO or no chief trust officer, chief security officer has a 100% handle over how AI is being utilized in the company. So that's what keeps me up at night. That's what gets me out of the bed in the morning. It's a constant evolution, so to speak, of what I think I can govern, what I think I can provide guidelines on, and what I think I can monitor in a very satisfactory fashion. And events like OpenClaw obviously add to the confusion as well as add to the complexity. But it also keeps us on our toes. Like a lot of CISOs have developed new agentic capabilities or agentic AI capabilities once OpenClaw came about because we had to test it ourselves. And then now there is Cloud Cowork, more secure than OpenClaw, but I still it gives me nightmares of what it can do within a company, even with all the guardrails that we have put in place for it.
Taking co-work as one item, let's say, and then which is even greater is the open cloud type of 24/7 system. Could you talk about some specific risks that you see with co-work specifically? Like what are the big ones you're concerned about? And then we'll move to the hardcore open cloud system.
Yeah, the specific risk I see with Cowork is the clamor for adoption is across the board. And what I mean by that is the buzz around it is so much that senior leadership level onwards, up to the executive leadership team, everybody wants to try out Cowork and see if it can make their life easier. But they are also the ones with the most privileged access on their laptops or any other asset that the company provides them, or digital asset, I mean. And they also have sensitive data on their laptops. So, how best to control a agent, like a hub is to control co-work from doing certain things versus not doing certain things. The best practice of limiting co-work involvement to a particular folder, how many of them strictly follow. Those are the things that is not as well governed as it should be today. And those are that is a one big risk that I track pretty closely. That's one. Second is like the autonomous capabilities of this agentic AI is hitherto unknown. We expect it to do something, but as OpenClaw and like the agents talking to each other, I forget what software it was, but like there was a software where like all the agents were talking to each other and they created it on their own. There is a lot of that happening with Cowork itself, where based on the task, a Cowork application is able to spawn off other sub agents, and the level of control as the agents get away from the initial primary task that was assigned to it becomes less and less. And so the outcomes that they will drive become that much more unpredictable. And that is another sort of risk factor. Those two big ones are enough for me to spend a lot of time monitoring what is happening in the co-work POCs that we're doing currently in my company.
One of the ones that I was talking to some folks about is the Cowork has the ability to pull different libraries in an ad hoc fashion, like Python and other well known libraries to do a bunch of ad hoc scripts. And it works on a whitelisted approach where sort of the most popular repositories like NPM and so forth are allowed. We've seen recently an explosion of open source compromise. There was also a lot of talk about Mythos, the new model, and how these very advanced frontier models are going to make it even worse. What's your thought on this particular class of risk, and should we just block it, or are there other things we could do to benefit from it while
Yeah, I think blocking it would only make it worse. We have to evolve and figure out how best to coexist. And one of the skills I did not mention, and when you were talking about your own experience, that came to my mind is skills. Now people go out and get skills from marketplaces. So just like a bad app, you can actually get a malicious skill that you can download and add to your file very willingly. We recently had an incident where it's tax season and everybody wanted to do their taxes and they were leveraging AI for that. And they went and downloaded something that they should not have downloaded, which was under their apps, malicious, but put it out there as like a tax prep skill. So yeah, we have to figure out a way how to coexist well. The guardrails and governance around such agentic behavior will keep evolving. There is no clean answer at this point. What the CISOs and the security community struggles mightily with is we want to be enablers of AI, and everybody looks at some of the smaller companies, the startups, the 50% company, and they're like, if they can do it, why can't we? But as somebody who has to wear multiple hats within a public company, I have to be the guy who has to stand up and say, no, we can't do this, or we can't set this pace because you're public. We have to be compliant, be very careful with the data that we store, whether it's customer data or employee data. So that's the constant struggle that I'm currently facing in my role.
and where do you see the largest gap between what probably some executives believe about their security or data security posture and the operational reality in this brave new world?
The biggest gap is what worked previously would work equally well now. Our security posture was hardened for cloud. We are a cloud native company. The companies that I worked with previously were also very cloud focused, even though there was some on-prem presence with the banks. But the security posture was very cloud security inclined. And today, like, that is almost an afterthought. From an investment point of view, we are still trying to figure out what are the AI risks out there, what is our AI risk posture. And my board even asked me that question. They stopped asking me what is my patching schedule, how many vulnerabilities are out there, so on. Right? The 0 days matter, but they are not looking at like the high, even the highs. Their constant questioning is around what is my AI risk posture? What am I doing about it? Do I have the right tooling? Are you providing the right guidance to the company from a guidelines and procedures point of view? Those are the things that I constantly sort of grapple with. Yeah, it's a learning journey for all of us. And fortunately for me, I'm part of a couple of forums, CISO forums, security leadership forums, where I'm able to pose these questions, or I get somebody else posing the question and I can respond. And collaboratively, we have formed an opinion that this is what works today. We obviously will evolve our position as things change in the AI world.
So there's the Cloud co-work, kind of an assistive workflow where obviously a user still needs to trigger something, but in session the agent has all the tokens, all the permission. God knows what's going to happen with prompt injection and so forth. Then there's the full-on agentic 24/7 system like OpenClaw, and I saw NVIDIA launched kind of a more enterprise, maybe vetted version of it. I know a lot of people don't even want to go there today. They have enough problems with the assistive use case. What are your thoughts on this one? Is it too early to touch? Are there ways to start experimenting with it?
I think too early to touch. A company like Nvidia can touch it or get involved with it because they have the wherewithal, both technical and financial. They have the people who understand it well enough, and then they have the resources, financial resources, to be put up against it. For small to medium sized companies, especially public companies that have to be very careful in terms of security and compliance, I think it's too early for us to go down that route. And I almost feel like going with a managed service, quote unquote, like Cloud Cowork, is the right option, because we get the benefit of a responsible company like Anthropic, providing a solution, and the bells and whistles that come with getting an enterprise license from them, from a security and compliance point of view again. So yeah, interesting to see how things are progressing on the OpenClaw front, and especially with the founder joining and OpenAI, and we'll see what they come up with. But for now, I think the more measured, more moderately successful Cloud Cowork is what is suitable for most companies.
I want to talk a bit about the different AI solutions and what's real value, what's hype. Obviously, you have a large team with many tools, and we've seen many tools now. It's almost a table stake. They have an agentic AI layer. They'll probably have an MCP server tied to their platform. And I'm curious on that solution side, what have you seen is delivering real value with AI in terms of saving time, reducing workforce, and so on? And what has been, a flop and hype?
Yeah, so I think two areas where I see real value. One would be on the code assist part, whether it's Cloud Code, whether it's Cursor, whether it's Gemini. All of them have progressively made our developers more productive. They have also made them write more secure code. That is because a lot of what we want, the security team wants, can be automated and can be shifted left, where it is part of their pull, right from their non-production environments. So if they don't have to think about it, and these solutions like Cloud Code and Cursor and Gemini, if they do it on their behalf, inherently the first draft of their code is that much more secure and that much more compliant. So clear lift there, and we are just like day one or day two of the in the journey. So these things are going to keep improving massively, and really looking forward to the pace that it will allow us to set from a feature build point of view, more security, productivity enhancement, etc. So that's one. And the second one that I've seen in the security space is around AI SOC. Real benefit. I don't foresee my team growing from this point onwards. Like, I wouldn't want to add any more FTEs, because what otherwise would have been done by 10 people can actually be done by 4 people and a whole bunch of agents. And that includes something like a SOC, where you need one or two individuals who react to level 3 playbook kind of activities. Level 1, level 2 can completely be automated via agents. You don't need a MSSP or a managed security services provider. and you don't even need a human oversight from an MSSP. The human oversight part can easily be brought in house, because again, like what used to be part of their day job, like 30-40% part of their day job to monitor the SOC and work with the MSSP, etc., has gone away. Now they just need to focus on what is truly triaged and what is a level 3, level 4 kind of incident or an alert. And that has opened up a lot more opportunities for somebody who's involved in security operations. But that is the second area where I've seen true value. In terms of where I've not seen value and still a lot to be done is all the AI governance tools out there, because the landscape is changing so rapidly in what we need to protect from a AI risk posture point of view. There cannot be a definitive tool that can protect you from everything. And most of these tools are lagging at least 1 to 2 months behind. Best case scenario, some may be lagging even more than that, right? So when the board asks us questions, or the executive leadership asks questions around AI risk, they ask based on what they read the latest. They're not asking me anything about what happened 6 months ago. And the protection we get from some of these AI governance tools is 6 months old or 4 months old. So that is where I think it is not working. So maybe my thoughts is the answer. Maybe that is the one that pushes AI governance into a more proactive mode versus reactive. But that is one space where I feel like AI tools are still lacking, or the solution is not as robust.
Very interesting. And on the MSSP side, you said something interesting. You said everyone can be their own MSSP for triaging level 1 and 2. That's very interesting. And I'm curious, as you start to do that yourself and you experiment with that, are you seeing obviously a conversion from costs that would be associated with headcount? You said we'll stay flat. We don't foresee growing, but that's got to be translating to token costs. What are you seeing in terms of that translation from headcount to token costs? Is there a ratio you've observed so far?
Not so far. I think the token cost increase is not that high. Compute cost has gone up. We are a Google shop. We leverage Vertex for some of our LLM needs. We also use Databricks, and so we leverage some of the Databricks LLM capabilities. And they run on compute, much less on token, because for most use cases we don't need to go with the latest and greatest. So if we go with a model that is 2 generations behind, the token usage is not that bad. And I suspect that should be the strategy going forward for most companies. Don't have your employees default to the latest and greatest, because 98% of the cases they don't need it. Very few people, maybe the data science team, maybe the ML ops team, they would need what's out there. But even from a code generation point of view, you are pretty okay with like 2 versions behind or 2 generations behind. So that's how we're managing our token usage. And we have not run into a lot of token spike as of now. Could change in the future, but don't have a ratio as such. Today, it's all purely OPEX capping. I wouldn't say saving yet, but OPEX capping, where I'm not going to my CFO and saying, give me more money to hire more people. The ask is usually around tooling. I have shadow AI concerns. How do I go fix them? Those kind of things.
A lot of people now, they seem to be shrinking their teams. And as a result, they kind of look for the best talent, the most experience that's now going to design, manage, operate an AI first system. Where does that leave all the new people that just graduated, the young people that are trying to find a job? Do you feel a tightening in that early career market? And do you have any solutions for people that might be starting and they're not what the industry seems to be looking for in this brave new world?
That is true. And I don't have an answer that some of these early career aspirants would like to hear. But the tightening is real. When we look to upskill, like if we have departures and we want to replace them, we look for mid-career professionals who have domain expertise and have shown capabilities around being able to automate pieces of their job. That's the main criteria. Do you have concrete examples of you being able to automate some of your previous work leveraging agents? And if there are no such examples, then that person is not a good fit for us. The advice I would give to early career aspirants, and I have a teenager as well, and soon he will be in the same position, is to understand the domain, any domain, a particular domain, and start picking that domain knowledge while you're still in school. Because if you know the domain, then automating it or doing it more efficiently, or 2xing 3xing capabilities can happen. But if you don't have domain knowledge, but you know the use of technology, which is getting outdated every minute as we speak, I think that is where most of the people today are, and that's why the opportunities are few and far between. But if I was to advise my own son, I would say pick a domain, build some expertise, understand the workflow, because if you understand the workflow, then you can build agentic capabilities on top of that. And that would be my advice. But it's a tough market nonetheless.
It's almost like you could be an aficionado of sushi and know a really great sushi, but you couldn't do it before. You weren't a chef to do it. Now, if you know what good sushi looks like, you can make it yourself.
Correct, correct. If you know how to pick the best fish, that's a skill that you should keep developing as a youngster, because no matter how much automation comes in, how much of the rice placement you can automate, uh, picking the right fish, the best fish for that particular sushi or sashimi, that will still be a skill that will be valued.
And where does all of that leave us for the evolution of the CISO role? Do you see it changing structurally, dramatically over the next decade?
Yeah, yeah, I think the decade might be too long of a stretch. The name might survive, the chief information security officer title might survive, but next 5 years will look dramatically different. In fact, I think the change has started already. As I was saying, like when we hire, even in the next CISO role I take on, I would think that the emphasis on AI will be much, much higher. And there is a lot of body of work that people can point to. Nobody can say I've been a CISO for 10 years, therefore I know what to do. It's like, what have you done in the AI space over the last 2 years? So the evolution would be something that I see in my current role already, which is data trust and security coming together. And almost the evolution could be that this role, this title could be a chief trust officer or chief data trust officer, something of that sort. Because essentially, what is AI? A clean, high quality, secure data foundation that we know when we feed it to LLMs and agents will do the right thing and will keep us secure and compliant. And for that, somebody with kind of my profile, who understands data as well as security, would be well placed. So in a way, I fell into it given my background at previous companies, so that I was able to play both those roles here. But I do see a natural extension of coming together of these roles, somewhat similar to what happened with chief data officer and chief analytics officer. I think they also sort of that amalgamation came through. But now I see that same thing with chief data and chief security, where it could just end up being like a chief data trust officer, something of that sort. But lots of changes ahead for us in the next 5 years, actually.
Who knows, maybe on the Forge Point Capital Council, you'll be soon looking at deals where it's the intersection of like avatars, open cloud, different technologies, and somebody's selling a CISO in a box, that's always perfect, always on. You could phone him, you could talk to him.
Yeah, I think that the digital twin concept, just like skills, there will be avatars, as you're saying. Like you can just hire a CISO avatar by the hour. All of those are very plausible. In fact, it's performance review cycle for us at this moment, and some of the things that we have been preparing the company for and the employees for is, in the future you may be just managing agents, right? Previously, a path to promotion, a path to leadership involved managing people. So everybody would clamor for a manager role, a senior manager role, a director level role. Today, in the near future, in the next 2 years, that could be just an individual contributor with a whole bunch of agents. These are agents that you have come up with, and your performance would be determined by the impact these agents have.
It's so interesting. I was thinking, listening to you, I'm like, really, you would have no ability to know if this is the real me or an avatar that I've programmed to interview you.
Yeah, funnily enough, there are people in my company already who have their avatars interacting with people on Slack. So if you message somebody thinking you're messaging Gene, and there is an avatar in the background like responding as you. So
So until we have avatars, I'm curious, when you do hire still real humans, what types of mindsets are you looking for? What types of attributes do you think are key when hiring maybe senior security leaders or high performers in security?
I would say the number one skill will be adaptability, because the last 18 months, the changes are akin to the changes that we saw in the last 10 years. And so, whoever shows the most amount of adaptability and flexibility combined with humility, the problem with senior leaders is that they have this been there, done that kind of attitude. And in the agentic AI world, there is no been there, done that. It's all happening real time. So if you have shown the capability to adapt, to keep learning, and be and show humility around it, where you understand that these things keep changing and I need to adapt accordingly, those are the traits, right? That plus domain knowledge that you have, relevant domain knowledge is what gets you hired. So, financial services, if you know financial services workflows well, that plus ability to adapt, that's a great skill set to have. Similarly, healthcare, similarly anything that's regulated would be sort of a good fit from a hiring point of view. But that's what I look for.
You mentioned, as a piece of advice for someone starting, it would be a great idea to really master the domain they're interested in. Do you have any other pieces of advice for someone starting today in cybersecurity?
The age old advice of networking, it's a skill, or it's an art that is losing value as generations come into workforce. A lot of the new entrants have lots of other distractions which prevents them being totally present and making those connections. And in the future, when you could very easily be interacting with the digital twins and avatars who have no emotions as such, the ability to form real connection and nurse that connection over a period of time, until it's like, it's something that benefits you, I think will be something that stands someone apart. So networking still rules. Networking, your network is your net worth is still true.
Yeah, well said. Your net worth is not TikTok.
It's not TikTok videos. It's not how many yeah, reels you watch in a day.
All right, Vivek, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. But before we wrap up, if people want to follow along with your work, where's the best place for them to go?
Not anywhere else on social media, but I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So if you look for my name, Vivek S Menon, there are quite a few Vivek Menons. But if you add my middle initial S, you will find me, and I'm happy to connect and interact. And thanks so much for having me on, Jin. I appreciate your time, and I enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, really fun conversation. Thank you, and let's stay in touch.